Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is G. You're watching All Astrology. Hello, hello, hello. This is G. What's up, everybody? We are a couple of days before the eclipse. I kind of wanted to touch on some of the highlights that we didn't get to go over on the Starry Night Live just this Saturday, which was great. It's not a problem. We had lots of people, lots of watchers, lots of commenters, lots of folks came on screen and talked, and we walked through their personal private birth chart together, and it was a wonderful experience. So I want to thank you to everybody who did that and who participated in the viewing and in the commenting, the chat, this live stream, and who came on screen, even if it was just your voice, and put your life for the whole world to watch. Well, you know, my handful of viewers. So with that said, I want to cover just a couple of the little refreshers I wanted to talk about in that live stream. And so I'm going to do it here right now on this chart. So the eclipse is April 19th, and it will likely be April 20th, depending upon where you live, right? And so that's important to remember. Is just, people have questions about, well, when is the eclipse? Someone said it's on the 19th. Someone said it's on the 20th. And I'm going to explain why. If you look carefully, I'm drawing an arrow to the time of the eclipse, right? So the time of the eclipse is 11:13 p.m. And look at the time zone. Central Daylight Time. That's because I drew this chart up for where I live, right? I can only draw up one chart. So it just makes sense for me to draw it up for where I'm located. And then for whoever's watching, you adjust for the time zone you live in. So as an example, I have family out west. So right now they are 2 hours behind us. Right. So when the eclipse occurs on, for me, April 19th at 11 o'clock at night, it will be 9 o'clock at night in their time zone. You follow? So you just have to adjust. Okay. And it's because it's so close to the date changing. It's 11:13 p.m. Right. 11:13 p.m. And normally I wouldn't pinpoint it so much, I mean, it's great to answer questions, right? I like when people have questions and I can try to help clarify, but this is a new moon. And so that's important because whenever we have new moons, especially eclipse new moons, we know that that is like the hours of power, right? When you have a new moon, when the sun and the moon are together, that's what my fingers here are representing. One finger is the sun and one is the moon. It's the hours of power. And so the teaching is that at the time of the new moon and the 8 hours that follow, that time is the time of manifestation. It is the time to speak into the universe, to pray, to write things down, to wish. I know there's a lot of different words that could be used, and some could argue some of the terms, but this isn't about that. This is just you being the manifester in your life, you being the metaphysician and saying, okay, by me looking at my chart and knowing where the new moon occurs, where this eclipse occurs, and why is it an eclipse? Because it happens near one of the nodes. It's close enough. It's within that 10-degree mark. It's close enough to be happening where one of the nodes are. And see the node right there, the north node in Taurus at 4 degrees, exactly 4 degrees. Taurus, our values, reevaluating our priorities and our values. What is important to me? Who is important to me? What do I love? Who do I love? Do I love myself? Am I worthy? Right? That's Taurus energy. It's also the creature comforts. It's also all things earth, but it's about the future because that's what the north node is about. Your future and my future. Now, the nodes being at 29 degrees in Aries, they're literally, if you look closely, 2950, the sun and the moon are both at 2950. Okay. And so that's how we know that it is a new moon eclipse because it is near the node. All right. So this makes this a north node new moon eclipse, or you will hear people say that this is a solar eclipse. Solar, because it's the sun and the moon together. It's a new moon. The sun and the moon are together. The sun is part of this process, right? And whenever anything gets near the moon, whenever anything gets near the sun, the teaching is that the sun is so powerful that it kind of, think about how the sun shines and radiates, right? Anything gets close enough, the sun kind of takes over. Its power takes over whatever it is near. So you'll see in this chart, there's a lot of things near the sun. We've got a Vulcan at 28. We've got ASTREA at 28. So this Vulcan is like that to create or destroy energy. It always travels very close to the sun. It's always within a few or 5 degrees within the sun. It is considered a hypothetical point or asteroid. So for those of you who are curious about it, there's lots of videos that say, hey, there's no reality to it. My intuitions and my knowings disagree, and so I'll just leave that at that for you guys. But you can do your own research. So Vulcan is a powerful point. You'll hear about it, and anybody who talks about or who has written about esoteric astrology, it is Ray 1, RAY. Vulcan is Ray 1. I know, and so these are a lot of information I don't normally give out. Okay. I've done other videos already about this eclipse. And so this video, I'm going to just try and touch on some things that I haven't touched on in those other videos. So you're going to be hearing things like that are different. Okay. And so Ray 1 is powerful. It's all about, think about the number 1, initiating, right? It is a beginning. So it can be the beginning of the end or a beginning of a beginning. Right. And technically a beginning of an end, then something normally is going to begin after that. But Ray 1 power is immense. And we have to know in our own lives, if we're given the power, are we going to be the skilled surgeon with the laser in a surgery? Think about that. A laser in a surgery with a patient on the table, like a whole lot of damage could be done. Create or destroy can happen. Right. So it's that thing. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with your power? Are you aware of it? Have you practiced with it? Have you learned how to use it as a tool, how to put it away when you don't need it, right? The surgeon doesn't walk around with the laser as he's walking to his office or as she's walking to her office or as they are walking to their office. The surgeon doesn't walk around with the damn laser. When the surgery's over, the laser goes off. It gets put away. It's a tool, right? And so when we have these powerful tools, it's our job to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off, or when to put it away and when to take it out. Okay. And so that's vital. That's vital. I feel strongly. And Aries, it's in starting something, in initiating something. Okay. And then we have it right next to ASTREA. They're together. And that's a big deal because ASTREA is like pit bull energy. ASTREA is like pit bull energy, which can be super awesome when you want to get stuff done. I call ASTREA our stick-to-itiveness. Our stick-to-itiveness. We're not going to give up. We're not going to back down. We're going to, even if we're knocked down, we get back up. That's ASTREA. It's like, I'm not giving up. Think about a pit bull. That's why I use the word pit bull. Might not be the best analogy, but a pit bull energy, if it gets the taste of blood, because it's been bred to fight. It's been bred to, when it gets that taste of blood, it hangs on until the object isn't moving anymore. Right. And so it even can withstand a lot of pain. So having ASTREA in Aries gives us the ability to be able to handle some of the hurts, because Aries is the soldier, right? To handle some of the hurts, but to not give up, to keep going and keep fighting. The thing with ASTREA that we all have to be aware of, just like with the Vulcan, there's positives and negatives of, are you going to put that tool away? Because it could do damage if you don't. ASTREA is a lot of the same way. It's almost like an over fixation, an over focus. Think about a pit bull. I've seen and heard different stories, where, you just definitely got to train it because it's powerful. Right. And so it's the same way with this ASTREA. We got to train her to see when it's over, because she has the ability, or I should say the inability. She doesn't have the skills to know enough is enough. right? So you either did it or said it or whatever. The repetition is real with ASTREA energy because we just keep going at it, right? So we got to know when it's over. We got to learn to recognize when something is done or when it's played out, when it's served its purpose and we no longer need it. Okay. So when we apply it to the sign of Aries, think of Aries starting something, maybe instigating, maybe my temper, my anger, like, does it just go on and on and on? Do we not stop, right? If we have a disagreement, or if we're stating these are my boundaries and this is my identity, Aries, my identity. And at this late degree, this eclipse is all about identity and individuation and my ability, my right to be who I am as I am, to exist and be equal, because I'm just of value as you or anybody else, regardless of my appearance, regardless of my identity or how I identify. Yep, that too, folks. Absolutely. If it harm none, let it be done. However, I choose to identify, how the hell is it harming you? Right? Exactly. So this is really a big deal here. 29 degrees, 28 degrees. You see it here in the chart, ASTREA. And then you see the sun at 2950 and the moon at 2950. So I'm going to take a moment here to reemphasize it's all about the values of my future. Is my ability to identify, right? My children, their freedoms and their rights to be who they are as they are and to be safe, right? For them not to feel threatened, for them to be okay, but not just okay, but be able to thrive and flourish, right? And you see, if we look in the chart, Jupiter is also in Aries. You see how much there is in Aries? It's crazy. All this get up and go and a lot of changes happening and taking place. I know in my life, I know in my mom's life, in everybody's life, right? A lot of things changing. And Jupiter is the court system. It is the Supreme Court for the US. It's the Supreme Court for everywhere, but I only mention the US because that's where I live, and there's just been a whole lot of crazy things going on, abuses of power and all that good stuff. But you see, Jupiter is conjunct Eris, female Eris. In case I haven't talked about Eris enough recently, which I might not have. I actually wanted to let me go and get you a different color for Eris because I switched up Jupiter. There's Eris in black now. We're pointing to Eris. This is the female Mars, Eris. She's an upside down arrow. It's the female Mars in Aries. She's at home in Aries, right? The story goes with Eris is that she is feminine energy. She kind of has been left out. She kind of, people know that she exists, yet nobody wants to hear what she has to say. We don't care what she has to say. Like, she doesn't have a place at the table. Like, if she walks up to the door and peeks in, she sees a whole bunch of people at the table, and they're all talking and having a meeting. She wasn't invited. She goes to turn the door handle, the damn thing's locked. Like, she wasn't invited. So she's angry. She's like, what the hell? I'm part of this community. Why do I not have a seat at that table? So she's mad. Yeah, it's angry feminine energy. It sure is. And Jupiter's right there, right? Jupiter is at 2344. Eris is at 2337. And remember, Aries can be youthful, can be, let's start something, can be, I'm going to fight for something, can be incredibly optimistic and positive energy. It wants to be a leader when it gets to the 29 degrees, as we have the sun and the moon. Somebody is leading the way. The sun and the moon, people who are in charge, authority figures. Somebody is setting an example. Somebody is saying we must prioritize and we must think about our future. We must think about our children. We must think about the planet. We must think, my gosh, if we're going to make it, we've got to learn to get along, right? We've got to honor each being. Yes, we've got to honor that. And we also have, look, Venus at 10. This is important. And Mercury at 15. Mercury is standing still here. She's very slow. She's not standing still exactly. Like in 2 days, she'll be standing perfectly still and begin her retrograde. So this is important because she'll be doing it next to Uranus. Remember, Uranus is technology. Uranus is all about the future in terms of things that will help humanity advance, inventions, Leonardo da Vinci, right? Think of the airplane, the airlines, AI, crypto, right? And all this stuff. But what about the earth? Because it's digital, it's electric, it's electricity. Benjamin Franklin, Uranus in Taurus energy. So it's electric for sure. It's the earth's power, the earth's electricity. How does that all work? The grid, possibly. You guys have heard me say the banking already a million times in the past. I kind of want to leave that alone. I'm kind of done with it myself, but definitely AI. And then look, we've got Juno at 22, 23. This is about partnerships, but it's our values. It's all Taurus themes. So it's all beginnings with Aries and Taurus. Taurus is the money. Taurus is peace. We're hearing a lot of different rumblings about peace, and maybe possibly there's going to be some peace, even though we're hearing things about, other things. I'm not going to go into that here, but peace is a possibility. I do want to touch on SEDNA. Okay. I want to touch on SEDNA real quick here. SEDNA is over here at 2915 in Taurus. SEDNA is disruptive. It represents water. SEDNA is divine goddess energy, right? The story is she is the consort of Neptune. She's got these icy cold waters. She's in the deep, in the depth. And again, she is also this feminine energy who was wronged by father, wronged by partner, wronged by her husband. Okay. So turbulent, cold, icy waters. But at the same time, think about this. She's in earth. So all things Mother Earth and water. And we've been having a lot of water events, right? And we're like, what's the hell's going on? Whether it's a lack of water or the extremes, too much water at one time sometimes. But we're going to read some of the positive things about SEDNA as well. SEDNA energy can be, she shows us where we can overcome feelings of being angry, of being feeling powerless, right? Where we feel like, oh my God, I don't have any power at all, right? And what's the teaching when we think of power? We give our power away, right? We give it away because we don't do something. We don't set up our natural boundaries. We don't state them and we don't stick to them if somebody overrides or crosses those boundaries, right? And so Sedna energy is all about, in Taurus, all about understanding your values, stating your values, sticking to that, making sure that if somebody either purposely overlooks or whatever, you step forward and calmly, firmly state, that's important to me, or that's not important to me. That's not a priority for me, right? You have to be clear in your own values, right? And it's being able to overcome, because when we can overcome that and when we feel like as though somebody is not taking our power, when we take back our power, then we don't have the need to be angry, right? Because we know that if we're responsible for that, we have to step it up, right? We have to step it up and we have to learn to use the words and make and say, this is important or this isn't important. This is my new priority now. This is where I'm headed. I changed my mind and that's okay, right? We're allowed to change our mind, right? And sometimes we forget that, especially in Taurus. Especially in Taurus, we start to do things and we create a habit, and that's Taurus. Really easy to create a habit. Any of the fixed signs, they get stuck in their ways. They're like, but I'm comfortable. And so we get this routine. Every Monday I eat this. Every Tuesday I eat this, right? And so we just get so like, because it's about simplicity and things being peaceful, right? But when you've got a lot of energy, look, when you've got all this energy, I'm sorry, I lost my chart. When you have all this energy in Aries, which is about initiation and starting, right? Which is like, yeah, I'm going to be physical. I'm going to make a change or make a move or begin something. And it might be different than what I was already doing because I'm reprioritizing Taurus. I'm taking a look at my money. I'm taking a look at, do I need these material things anymore? And it might be letting things go because the South Node is in Scorpio, right? The nodes are at 4 degrees. So pay attention, especially if you have things in Leo, and Aquarius. I've been having lengthy conversations in the comments with people on the channel. Check your Aquarius energy and your Leo energy. Check the house cusp lines. Okay. If you're like, gosh, I don't know why I'm going through stuff or what's happening. I don't have anything in those degrees that are being squared by the nodes. Like, check your house cusp lines, even if it's not the ascendant, the fourth house, the descendant, or the midheaven. I honor all house cusp lines because for people who are sensitive, yes, those absolutely matter. And we know because we've seen it happening in our lives. We feel it happening in our world. So pay attention to those. Okay. So SEDNA is about understanding who has the power, understanding that if you don't know what you value, if you don't know that you are valuable and that you are worthy, if you don't know why you're valuable, why you're worthy, chances are you are undervaluing yourself. And if you undervalue yourself, you can't expect anybody else in your life to put a greater value on you than you. It starts within. We are each responsible. We're each accountable for the things that are going on in our world. Okay. I get it that there may be a lot of outer things happening, but the saying goes, if you're not happy with what's going on, then it's time for you to make a change. Okay. If you wait and wait and wait, sometimes waiting is good. But if you've waited and you feel like you're just done, you can't take it anymore, it's time for a change. And that change is talking to others, finding out what your options are and how you can move forward in a healthy way, a way that is good for you, a way where you can achieve the peace you want. Remember, that's Venus. I want peaceful communications. Venus and Mercury are always talking to each other. And that's important because it's neighbors, Gemini, it's learning, Gemini. It's the way I think, talk, relate, communicate. This can be learning something new, as in like a new trade. This can be sales. This is typically white collar workers, next door neighbors, people at the market selling things. Are you a salesperson? Are you a school teacher? Are you a student? This can be siblings. This can be peers, anybody that you call a friend, but simply like a peer, right? Like an associate, not like best buds, right? It's very casual, laid back. It's social media. It's the telephone. It's the internet because it's the device, the small handheld devices, right? It's snail mail. It's old school mail. It's the news. And it's Venus, which is my values. I want peace. I want goodness. I want abundance. Where's the money? Bring me the money. So there's a lot of talk about money, a lot of conversations, a lot of news about whether it's the stock market, the banking, whatever, right? The earth, the commodities, prices going up, going down, the Fed, the interest rates, like it's commercial real estate as well. Not just housing market, but real estate in general, because it's Gemini. So it's where you are at. Think about the real estate in your neighborhood. It's not just the houses. Think of your taxes, right? It's based on the businesses and where you live. And so if the businesses are doing well, then your property taxes are usually lower. And when those businesses aren't doing so well, then guess who gets the higher taxes? The homeowners end up paying a little bit more in taxes that year. They fluctuate, right? And so that would all be Gemini stuff, especially with Venus in Gemini. Okay. And remember, the sisters are always communicating, whether we're aware of it or not. Venus and Mercury, I call them the sisters, and they are always having conversations. So whatever Venus is doing and talking and looking at, let me fix that. She's getting the information back to Mercury, and Mercury's doing the same thing. Well, Mercury's going to be standing next to Uranus and then goes retrograde at 16 degrees. At 16 degrees. There's a lot of videos on the channel. Watch them. I'll put the links below. If you don't know where any of these things are in your chart, if you need help figuring these things out, comment below, because this whole thing with Mercury, it takes us and carries us all the way through to the end of May. So many have asked about jobs. So many have asked about what the hell's going on in my life. I can't make up my mind, or I thought this was ready to go and it's not. And there's just there can be a lot of confusion. And Mercury demands options before it makes a decision. And there can be mistakes, there can be delays and do-overs, reruns. That's all Mercury stuff. Now, next to Uranus, there could be shocking news, shocking information. Okay. So all of this may be highlighted on the day of the eclipse because, as you saw in that chart, Mercury is still very close to Uranus. Okay. But there's still like that 5-day window from the 19th, the 20th to the 24th, 25th, where we're going to news and information and things we're hearing about, because it's Mercury standing still and then going backwards, right? And so there's just going to be a lot of things that we have to be flexible, right? That we have to be willing to consider other options, other ideas, even things where we're like, I'm locked in on this. I know this is the truth, right? We just have to say, is there a possibility that there is any truth in that? Because it's Mercury. It's learning. It's thinking. And remember, at the opposite of Mercury is Sagittarius, because it's Gemini, Mercury, and then Sagittarius, Jupiter, truth. You follow how I did that? Jupiter is truth. That's why when we're talking about Mercury, Mercury's looking over the material and the statistics and the facts and collecting data to make a good decision, to make a good judgment. Jupiter, judgment. It's all in the sign of Aries. So you see how that's all connected, right? You saw how the Gemini, the Taurus, and the Aries energy, there's such a huge focus. So find out what house numbers those are in your chart. And that tells you what's going on in your life. It starts to create this story for you. Okay. So again, you don't know and you want to know? Comment below. You need help? Comment below. If you want your chart, comment below. If you don't want your chart, but you just want to know, comment below. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.